Now, the Trump speech was long and rambling and made huge numbers of assertions. And I'm afraid it is now essential that we fact-check a few of those. And to do so, I'm joined now by Simon Marks, LBC's Washington correspondent, who is listening in. Simon, just get us going. Apparently, Iceland is part of this big trouble now. Can you explain why the president kept talking about Iceland? Was he just making a mistake? Was he getting two countries mixed up?
Well, I think he was just making a mistake. Yeah, I think he was just making a mistake, Andrew. I think that because he had referred to his ask as simply for a piece of ice, a small piece of ice, by that he meant Greenland, he then confused the two countries in his own mind, and on a couple of separate occasions referenced Iceland when he meant clearly Greenland. I mean, the most breathtaking factual assertion that I think was falsely made during the course of this speech was his claim that Greenland at the end of World War II was part of North America. I mean, he once again advanced this notion that the United States is laying claim to the Western Hemisphere, and he indicated that after the United States had put military bases on Greenland soil during the Second World War, in his mind somehow that means that America owned Greenland at the end of the Second World War and then handed it over to Denmark, and that was a terrible mistake that he is simply now trying to correct. It's part of North America, it's our territory, he said. I mean, that is flatly untrue.
On the same basis...
At no point did the United States control Greenland.
I was going to say, on the same basis, Suffolk would be part of American territory today.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah. So that it was, as I say, it was quite a long and rambling speech, but 500 years worth of oil and gas still under the North Sea. I think that would be a surprise to a lot of oil companies.
Yes, an enormous surprise to them. But I mean, once again, the American president sort of flaying Keir Starmer's government for not allowing further exploration in the North Sea. This is an issue that he voiced, of course, when he was in the UK last year for that second state visit. And it's an issue that he voices again and again, as he also says that if European nations, including the UK, don't control illegal immigration into their nations, they will soon be dead. And that's why I think the broader context of this speech, filled with falsehoods as it was reminding European voters that when they next get a chance, they ought to be embracing political parties that favour his kind of solutions to their domestic issues. And by that, of course, the government here means, in the UK context, Reform UK.
One final question, Simon. There have been reports that senior Republicans have been warning Donald Trump's White House that if he did go ahead with military action in Greenland, that would be the end of his presidency. How seriously do you take those reports?
Well, I think they should be taken very seriously, not least because some of them were actually articulated publicly by senior Republicans last weekend, including a couple on America's TV Sunday shows. The fact that Donald Trump today said, whether he means it or not, that he's not going to go forward with military action to seize Greenland, I think is partly in response to that critique, because those Republicans didn't say taking Greenland through a negotiated acquisition would be the end of your presidency. They specifically said the use of military force. And I think that Donald Trump, at least moving it slightly off the front burner, because I don't think he was taking it away completely, was responding to that.
What days we're living through. Simon, thank you very much indeed. Trying to understand him psychologically has never been more important. So let's hear now from Donald Trump's longtime associate, former lawyer, creator of the Substack platform, The Real Michael Cohen, Michael Cohen. Mr. Cohen, great to have you on the show. We're trying to work out around the world how seriously to take Donald Trump when he says we are going to get Greenland one way or the other. As someone who knows the man quite well, what's your view?
Yeah, as it relates to Trump and a desire, when he has his eyes set on something, there is nothing that is going to stop him from acquiring what it is that he so desires, whether it's a piece of property for a golf course, whether it is a building, or whether it is a territory of ice. It makes no difference. When he says that he wants it, what he did say, and I think it's important for people to note, he said excessive military force. Now, I listened to part of your previous guest when he said that there are Republicans that have said if you try to use the military within which to seize Greenland, that would be impeachable. You know, we've heard that sort of impeachment rhetoric many times here in the States, in fact, on 2 impeachment trials, neither of which were successful. And I strongly believe very much that if he ended up using not extreme, as he said, because he won't need to use extreme with 57,000 inhabitants, maybe 60,000 military, which doesn't seem to be too extreme in his mind.
So he could do that. Let me ask you perhaps a more sensitive question. Listening to him giving that, frankly, very long and rambling address in Davos, he made some really extraordinary mistakes, like confusing Greenland and Iceland, the kind of thing that if President Biden had done would have caused sort of comment around the world. Do you think he is losing?
No, they would have had Biden. They would have had Andrew Biden in a straitjacket going for a mental cognitive test.
So, I mean, I guess the obvious question is, do you think, he said gently, that the president is losing it a bit?
No. You know, remember, what happened was they were on the Air Force One. There seemed to have been some form of an electrical problem. They had to turn around, believe it or not. And so he'd been on a flight for a very long time, landed in Davos at 2 o'clock for a 2:30 speech. I think he made a mistake. And in one sentence, he used Iceland 3 times instead of Greenland. I don't think that there is a cognitive issue. It's just a mistake.
And again, you've followed his ups and downs for a long, long time. He appears to be a president really almost unique in modern times in America because he is without constraints.
Zero constraints. In fact, somehow they have managed, and again, this is the mistake of the American people. This is not something that we should not have expected, Andrew. Project 2025 calls for exactly what Donald Trump is doing. It's not as if they hid this nefarious desire. It's put out there in a 922-page manifesto that is designed within which to destroy America's democratic republic, plain and simple. And for whatever the reason, Andrew, they've decided that this is the guy that they wanted to do it. He has crippled Congress. He controls Congress. And in fact, he controls many of the courts, including the Supreme Court of the United States.
So it's to replace the old democratic American system by an imperial and expansionist presidency.
Well, that certainly seems the way that it's going, doesn't it? Because first it's Panama, now it's Venezuela, then you also have Canada, you have Greenland. I mean, it's not 1 or 2 places, Mexico. I mean, he makes these very bold statements on what was always known as the sphere of influence. You know, the sphere of influence, depending upon who's the strongest in that hemisphere, has the right to everything. That's what he believes.